What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Ash Echoes video. Alright guys, many of you have been reaching out lately being like, Payne, this game is really confusing. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, this game does have a lot of elements that most RPGs, especially in the gacha realm, do not have. They have complicated a lot of their features, but it is not a bad thing. It just is a big learning curve. Now, one of the major things you guys are asking for is team building opportunities and what teams you should focus on. So what I've decided to do is not build my own, but also look at other people's builds and talk a little bit about which ones you should focus on and why. Now, first off, I want to say big shout out to Private and Lyriel especially, who has been helping put this together. So we're going to talk a little bit about the actual team building guys that's on there, because I think they're wonderful, well put together and thought out, and as well they make perfect sense. So let's talk a little bit about Ash Echoes and team building. So first off, elements go together really well. They synergize well in this game. You always have the same elements working off of each other, so elemental teams are amazing together. Now, it doesn't mean you can have non-elemental teams, but having pure fire teams or freeze teams or electrocution teams or corrosion teams, explosion teams, wind teams, etc. are all going to benefit you greatly. So we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those teams and go through Prideone's team building. I think they've done a fantastic job putting this together and explain to you how they work. Okay, so first off, you guys can see here, the first one is the corrosion team. All right, now first off, the tank is going to be Laurel. Laurel's an incredible tank, also an incredible DPS, and is kind of the core piece, in my opinion, of the corrosion team with her skills. Caroline is going to be your DPS, Gina is going to be your DPS, and Frida, for the most part, you're going to see Frida is going to be your main support almost for all of these builds. That's right. Almost all of these builds, she's water, but she's going to be your main support because of her buffing and her healing. She just does everything you need her to do and is an incredibly powerful 5-star unit, probably the best one still in the game, even in CN version. Okay, so how does this work? So the corrosion team boasts high map-wide damage on a timer dictated by how many corrosion accumulation sources the team has, and then functions outside the elemental reaction system, not interacting with elemental zones and therefore not requiring elemental zone sources. This team can be run officially with as few as two corrosion accumulation sources, or even just as one if you have high enough investment. So what they're referring to is corrosion builds over time. Think of it almost like poison, and then once enough builds, it just blows up and kills everything in sight and doesn't require elemental use whatsoever. You guys can see here, Laurel is used as a tank as she's incredibly good at team survivability and damage potential. Caroline is used as a sub DPS. Gina is your burst DPS and her anti-projectile capabilities and provides corrosion accumulation just like the previous two Echomancers. And Frida, of course, provides you healing and buffs. So a couple alternatives you can use here. Luke is a great versatile summoner who can be used here to add in. He specializes in turrets and barriers. Flexible character to kill anti-air, great at keeping you buffed up. Another good DPS here is going to be a CO. A CO can be used for more control-oriented DPS, which still contributes to corrosion accumulation with some area denial at the expense of anti-air capability. So that's kind of his downfall, lack of anti-air. Launching can be used instead of Frida if you have her. Frida's still going to be better because of the offensive capabilities. She just has better offensive capability. Her buff is just amazing. And then Zodovan Asura can also be added in here, and then also Belaya. Bubbles, I don't personally recommend. You should probably have one of these units here, including Frida. 99 cents, by the way, to pick her up. Worth it. Absolutely worth it. So there you guys go. That is the team there. Here's a couple traces you can use. Hidden Blade, Shadows of the Ally, or Defensive Nightmare if you have Longqing. Growth, Muscle Building, Emptiness, Double Attraction, or Karma. Leaders, Caroline or other. Switch Defensive if she is the leader. Switch Defense, Double Attraction, or Defense Karma. 2 Illusions of Flowers. That's what you want to use if that's the memory trace if you're not using Laurel. And then alternative budget ones are listed right here. So realistically, if you did pull Laurel, this is going to be a team that will carry you throughout the entire game. They're incredible. No elemental requirements. Just use this team, watch Corrosion build, and you will knock everything out the park. Like, this is an incredible. This is actually a very similar team to what I used in my beta version when it first came out. Okay, so because I love Laurel, I had her fully maxed out, including dupes of her, just because the devs gave me so many summoning tickets, and I ran with her the whole time. Okay, so there you guys go. Electrocution team. So this team is used during water zones to continuously stun lock enemies. This is the best CC team in the game, in my opinion, which essentially allows you to stun lock everything in sight and just do mass amounts of DPS while they can't move. Okay, so dealing high damage thanks to the team's elemental reaction damage boost. Needs at least one source of water zone though to make this really work. So you're going to see a couple cheap units here that work extremely well. By the way, Lydia has quite the look. So first off, Yuki. Everybody gets Yuki. Very simple unit to use. You get them as your tank. The water zone you want is Fury and Fernie. We're going to have some alternatives here for you. Lydia is your main DPS, and then you're going to have your support as Frida. So Yuki's a tank, as can soak up enemies, group up enemies, and provide lightning damage. He also uses to fill the 2 lightning character requirements for the field, and triggers My Vision is Clear as well. Fernie is your consistent water zone generators, and Lydia is your main DPS carry who can do great deals of damage to group enemies and has a barrier penetration. And Frida, of course, provides everything you need. Now, for the water zone, Sambeka is also another really good option here, where she can create some water zones for you. Luke is a great DPS, of course, if you don't have Lydia. Pris is another really good DPS who has lightning damage sources too. Miss Lu, I actually like Miss Lu quite a bit. Miss Lu is one of my favorite budget lightning sources, and I actually use her almost for everything on my account currently because she has anti-air and she does massive amounts of damage. So Miss Lu, I highly do recommend as a cheap alternative. If you don't have her, you should try to get her at least. I think the C and D I think is a little bit deceiving on the tier list for her. I think she deserves to be a little bit higher. That's my opinion. Hassel, also very high damage, does not trigger electrocute damage, but just does insane damage himself. Launching, of course, for support, Zavina support, and Bubble support. Okay, those are going to always pretty much be it. Memory traces, you guys can see here. If you guys are using it doesn't matter who the leader is here. My Vision is Clear, Shadows of the Alley, Separation, Remaining Friends, Muscle Building, Behind the Curtains, or Vitality Company. You guys can see the 2 attack ones are the main ones in my opinion here. Focus on those. And there's a couple of budget ones over here. All right, Freeze Team. This is fun. I like the Freeze Team. They do insta-kill, which is one of my favorite things to see happen to an enemy. Just boop, all HP gone. So how do you build them? So stats for leaders. You guys can see here, a leader is going to be Ivana. Ivana is always going to be the leader. She is the best, in my opinion, DPS out of the freezing. And I used her in my main account on beta all the time. I loved her. She was one of my coolest characters, and I still stand by that. So first off, water zone, you guys will need that, of course. Sambeka here is super cheap to do. Ivana will do all your main DPS plus AoE DPS. Begonia, same scenario here. Functional as a striker though, so she'll do single target DPS. And then, of course, Frida. So you guys can see here, Sambeka's run for water zone generation, keeps enemies frozen when her ultimate is up, and pushes enemies away when it is not. Her lightning also triggers Electrize from time to time when reduced enemy damage dealt, which makes great roll compression. Ivana is your main DPS carry, dealing the bulk of the damage and freezing enemies with her powerful Everfrost debuff. And then Begonia is the sub DPS who contributes with attack speed buffs to help keep enemies frozen. And then Frida, of course, keeps everybody healed and buffed. So a couple different water zones. You're going to see this is going to go hand in hand. Sambeka and Fury and Fernie are always going to change places. Luke is the most versatile character in the game, so he pretty much will fall into line with anybody as a DPS. Launching, Zavina, Belaya here, and then Bubbles. All right, a couple of the memory traces you guys can take a look at. You guys can see MST kind of belongs a little bit more than attack here, so try to build on MST whenever you can. All right, Summoner Physical Team. This is a fun one. If you actually did pull Luke and you pulled Sen, you're going to be dominating with this team. Laurel is going to be your tank. Your DPS is going to be Sen as she summons. Luke is also going to be amazing here as well too. And then Frida, of course. So Laurel is obviously going to just be tanking and causing corrosion whenever she does her thing. And she synergizes as well pretty much with any team. Sen is the main DPS, offering both burst and damage, anti-air plus air. Anti-air and ground, doesn't matter, she does it all. Luke is your amazing sub support. He summons barriers and turrets, and his ultimate also covers the entire area of the map. And then Frida, of course, provides you the buff. So a couple alternatives. Personally here, I think Tong is a good alternative here for burst windows. So he's a good option to replace Luke in this case. I wouldn't replace Sen here. CC here, I don't know if I agree with the CCs. I think what you have here for Shu and Su is a decent option, but I don't think you should really stray too far from this team. I think this team is a perfect team for summoner team, especially physical. So very, very good options. And there's your memory traces right there. And then Pure Fire team. Now this is one of my favorite teams, only because I'm obsessed with Cyrus as a character. So Mo is going to be your tank, incredible tank. Barrier does a shitload of fire damage, and also keeps you guys alive. Cyrus is the main primary DPS, creating zones as well as transforming activation skills, and does massive AoE damage, including single target damage. Just remember, he has no anti-air though. That's his biggest issue. Roar is your second DPS. She does provide you guys with anti-air, plus provide you guys with fire zones. And then Frida, of course, as you can see here, the common factor is going to be your main form of buffing. All right, so a couple of differences here. Sambeka can be your CC. Luke, of course, again, can place your DPS. Longqing, and then you guys can see the rest here. Reed is another really good option for fire zones, to be honest. He's actually pretty damn good. I actually enjoy using him. And Infa here as a tank, wouldn't replace, but if you don't have Mo, you have an option. I don't necessarily consider using a tank as a necessity here, but you can in case you need it for higher difficulties. Early difficulty, Cyrus does enough tanking for you with a good healer. All right, so there's a couple of memory traces you can use. And then lastly, the explosion team, very, very similar. The only difference here with the explosion team is you do explosion versus burn, which is a little bit different. And this team comprises of half, you guys can see lightning, water, and the fire team. So you need lightning and fire here to really make it work. And this is the best team here: Lydia, Cyrus, and Mo, and Frida. And you guys can check out exactly how to do this. So there you guys go. Amazing, amazing put together teams. The Wind team is the only one I actually haven't had a chance to experience, to be honest. I've never been a fan of the Wind team, but they are high attack, high speed, and a lot of burst damage. So I've never had the opportunity to actually try them, but this is the team if you plan to do it. Laurel, Shiratori, Felicio. I do love Felicio as a character. Amazing buffer and good AoE DPS. And so Dvina here instead of the usual Frida is the biggest difference here because she does have Echomancers to heal and keep them alive with defensive buffs. Again, they're not as strong as the other teams in my opinion, but that right there is something you can try in case you have these units. All right, guys, this is Payne. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Pridewin and everyone who put this together. Appreciate it. Have a great one, guys. Take care.